Alright, Brian Ortega. I'm sorry, but I'm at the point where we can no longer call him Loti Soy Boy Ortega. I don't know where this came from, but this can't be used anymore, especially after a performance like that. Like, Brian Ortega is known as a guy who's actually got quite good boxing when he throws a lot of straight punches. Like, even though he lost the first round convincingly, we did see Yair Rodriguez sometimes turning his head as Brian Ortega would come forward with straight punches because he's quite fast with his hands, but he doesn't have power, really. Like, yes, he dropped Chan Sung-yong with that spinning elbow. If you run into like a moving truck, of course you're going to get dropped or something like that. And it was like he ran into a spinning elbow, so he got dropped. But apart from that, his wrestling looked extremely good in this fight. And I believe because Yair in this fight was becoming over-aggressive, for example, if I take you to this point here, you're seeing Brian Ortega like feint at Yair to try and push him up against the cage so he can start to get those underhooks working. But you'll notice that Yair's not baiting on them. He literally just stands there and starts throwing these like oblique kicks or like low side kicks to the knees of Ortega because he knows that he's coming heavy on that front leg. Like he wants to drive him against the cage, but he's not going to. He's just standing there waiting for him to go back, but he won't. So he throws another low side kick, which then makes Brian Ortega think, right, he's not biting on them, let me come forward. And because Yair noticed that he's coming forward without throwing a strike, he immediately tries to fire off that backhand as he's kind of like leaning back. And because Brian Ortega's not really moving his head off the centre line, he's keeping it flat and he's looking to measure the distance, he eats a straight right onto the nose that drops him. And we know Yair's that fighter who gets like the urge to like finish his opponent when he hurts them. So what he does is the right thing in this situation. He lunges in with a hook that catches Ortega and then follows up with his backhand that then sits him down again. But then you'll notice, as every wrestler would do in this situation, Ortega grabs hold of Yair's leg. And this is where the problem comes with Yair in a lot of his fights, where he's come up against wrestlers, apart from Josh Emmett obviously. He's not looking to defend against takedowns, he's looking to be all offense. And yes, that can be very effective, especially when you've dropped an opponent. But against a guy like Brian Ortega, you have to be careful, because what Brian Ortega was able to do is, because he was in a situation where Yair had to kind of get to the ear of him instead of like smashing him down to the back of the head, it gives him time to then grab him and pull him into him and then take him to the opposite side and put him off balance. And what that allows him to do is then grab hold of him and get in the clinch. And because Yair is still desperate to get the finish, again, he's looking to go all out and just like throw him down to the ground with a judo throw. But what Yair doesn't realise is when he goes for the judo throw, Brian Ortega's feet are planted in the ground. He didn't even elevate him off the floor at first. And Brian Ortega was able to get his left leg around the left leg of Yair Rodriguez, which gave him a bit more control in that position. So when Yair's going forward down to the ground, because of momentum, he is going to fall on his face. Well, not onto his face, but onto his shoulder, and allow Brian Ortega to take the back position. And then he gives away his back, and that was one dangerous thing there, forcing it instead of like looking to turn and create separation, which would probably make it easier for him to get the finish compared to trying to bring a fight to the ground with Ortega. That's one thing you don't want to do. But you'll see that Yair was still able to bounce back up to the feet. One, because Yair's in a kind of like dazed state. Plus, in this moment, you could see that Yair Rodriguez, even though he was on the floor at the same time as him, he had a stronger overhook, so he was able to build his base back up and then be able to land a few knees to the body before creating separation. And then we're starting to see a change in the fight where Yair's landing this cross onto Brian Ortega's chin, and it's backing him up, and it's making Brian Ortega use a lot of lateral movement, and he's able to finish off by landing a kick to the body. But one thing that Yair right now is doing is, instead of like staying on the outside, being more patient, he's kind of like rushing things and chasing him down instead of cutting off the cage. And what that's allowing Brian Ortega to do is, when they get extremely close to each other, for example, if misses a strike, for example, they're like in clinch proximity and he misses like an elbow, or it might just graze the chin of Ortega, nothing significant, and it gives away his back. And when you give away your back to Ortega, he's able to get you in a clinch. And you don't want to be doing that, because eventually Brian Ortega is going to get a read for what you're doing and be able to keep getting this underhook. And it was like, even though Yair won this round convincingly, about this time here, Brian Ortega was starting to get a read on what Yair was doing. He was looking to throw a lot of 1-2s and then looking to not finish off with a kick to the body, but then back him up against the cage, then throw the kick. So You're seeing Brian Ortega at this point in the fight starting to move his head off the centre line, and he's able to actually avoid like a good combination of punches by Yair here. But what became a problem is when Yair starts mixing it down low, because you're noticing that Ortega is struggling to teep and block these like leg kicks or even check them. So even though at this point you're seeing him start to measure the distance to try and block like some of the jabs of Yair Rodriguez, it's not working effectively when he's blocking the shots down low. Like, the boxing is improving at this point in the fight. Like, his striking defense is becoming a bit better compared to earlier on. He's getting a read on him, but it's when Yair starts to mix up like this low kick, it then makes him go down to the ground where Yair is able to get the top position. And this is where I think it became a problem, because you're noticing that Brian Ortega's actually able to take the back of Yair Rodriguez when he's messing about on the ground. And this happens because he's being all offensive, trying to like get a finish. And because he's not protecting himself and like telling him to stand up, he's able to trap the leg of Yair Rodriguez, take the back, and then try and get him in like a rear naked choke. But you're noticing that Yair Rodriguez wants none of it, and he's immediately like jumping up to try and get back up to the feet. But by trying to get back up to the feet, he's not defending his back at all. Like, he's not looking at what Brian Ortega's doing. He's just looking to get his two hands on the ground and try and like jump out. But because he's not like rolling or anything, Brian Ortega's able to just keep that arm in around the waist of Yair, and then as Yair's moving upwards, cling onto him with his right hand, build up his way back up to the feet, and then look to like try and threaten him with a rear naked choke attempt. But instead of going for the rear naked choke attempt, he gets the hook in and then sweeps him down the other way. And that's like a high IQ takedown move that he did on Yair. And at this point, you're seeing that Yair is fading, because he was close to getting a 10-8 in that round, but it did just become a 10-9 because of the ending of this round. For example, he was getting the read on the boxing. Yes, Yair got some damage on the ground against him, but then he took his back. He was threatening him with that like submission attempt, then brought him down to the ground here and was looking to be active, trying to get a submission, but obviously there weren't enough time to do it. And then now there's like kind of a momentum switch in the fight, because Yair's starting to gas, and I did say in the prediction video that after the second round, I think he's probably going to lose this fight if he goes past it, and it did. Because we're seeing now Brian Ortega's rushing things, trying to get him up against the cage quicker instead of waiting, and he's kind of like cutting off the cage with his punches as well, which is making Yair have to go straight backwards, and he's not circling out. And because he's turning away at times, it's giving Brian Ortega times to get the clinch and put him against the cage. And because he's doing it at a high pace, and we know that Yair Rodriguez's cardio can fade, it's all compounding, and now the momentum is with Brian Ortega. So he was now seeing Ortega do the Dagestani approach, where he's going to eat a shot, but he's just looking to come forward. Don't take any backward steps like his Piotr Jan, just keep coming forward, and then use that to set up takedown attempts. And what that's doing is making Yair gas, because he's having to defend these takedowns and use all this energy. And because Brian Ortega's cardio is not bad, he's able to just keep pushing forward, and it's causing Yair problems with his gas tank. And I think one problem from Yair as well, you're seeing that he's getting like lower down to the ground to try and like escape, but he's not rolling. Like at this point here, you would think he might try and go for like a forward roll to try and scramble out of this position, but he's not really scrambling. He's looking to just try and defend and try and like be stronger than him in the clinch, but it's not going to happen because he's just not that type of guy. He can't wrestle to that extent. So that's just allowing Ortega to lean his body over the top of him and physically force him to fight with his back up against the cage. And Yair Rodriguez has sometimes got a good fight IQ when it comes to like throwing strikes and being offensive, but being defensive against takedowns, he doesn't really look like he has, because he's doing what Jack Della Maddalena did against Basil Hafiz, where you're looking to jump onto guillotines instead of looking to defend against the takedown. And by doing that, you better get the guillotine, because it's like depending on who you are, it can be a high risk, low reward. No, it can be a low risk. No, because it's a high risk, high reward maneuver. For example, if you mess it up, you're going to be tired and you're going to be on your back from using all that lactic acid in your arms getting it. And if you get it, then it's a high reward, obviously, because you win by guillotine. But if you don't get it, like he doesn't get here because it's against Brian Ortega, you just end up on your back and just getting drowned with the grappling by Brian Ortega. And Brian Ortega, he looks so much better on the ground to what we're used to. For example, we're seeing him actually fight like how a wrestler, not just the jiu-jitsu who people would call quote soy. He was actually using elbows, doing ground and pound on Yair, and Yair couldn't get up. He was trapped on the ground, starting to bleed, his cardio's going, and if he can't get a triangle choke off his back, he can't really do much because he's not really like good off his back apart from submissions. It's hard for a guy like him to build up off his back and get back up once you get him in like a position where your body is over the top of him. For example, look at the fight with Jeremy Stevens. He was able to just hold him down, and Yair couldn't do anything. He couldn't get back up to his feet at times because he's just not got good cardio after the second round. And I know we're in the second round here, but we are fighting at altitude as well. And if I knew that before the fight, I might have changed my pick. I didn't even realise this would be a massive issue, which it turned out to be. So he ends up getting dominated in this round, and you're seeing now Yair is fading. And when Yair is fading, there's not really much he can do apart from hope he can get a knockout, which he's not able to do. And then in the third round, you're starting to see him be more aggressive with kicks to start off and then throw a 1-2. But because Brian Ortega knows how his boxing is going now, it's just simply a 1-2. He's able to just move his head a little bit, grab hold of the clinch, look for an underhook, drive him towards the cage. Once you've got him towards the cage, take him down. It's so easy at this point for Ortega. And he did like a similar takedown to what he did in the first round, went in the same direction, but he didn't even threat like a rear naked choke. He just decided to sweep that leg from behind, take him down. And at this point I knew fight's over. It's just going to drift in Ortega's favour, which it did, because Yair's become tired, he's helpless, he's on the ground, and he's just allowed Brian Ortega to just lock up this tight arm triangle. And he can't even turn, like he's so tired from the elevation. He's just been absolutely outclassed on the ground. He can't do anything. Ortega taps out, and you're seeing immediately, as he taps out, you're seeing him hold it for like an abnormal amount of time. And it's a bit strange why he did that, considering after the fight he was all like happy and respectful for him. He just seems to hold it. Maybe he was just a bit out of it because he couldn't hear. Maybe he had a concussion, probably after getting dropped and almost getting 10-8'd in the first round. But honestly, Brian Ortega's been massively underrated. His wrestling's going to get better now. Like, yeah, okay, he hasn't got a good takedown defense, but Brian Ortega doesn't go out there like that, wrestling people, taking them down like that, and getting that type of level of control. I believe this is the record for the most amount of takedowns he's had in a fight before. And I still think, though, these two here, no chance against Ilia. If I had to do the list again, I'd have to move them both down a level. I'd have to move down Yair to a much lower level, because there is a meta against him which you can do. Is if you can wrestle, use it against Yair. Don't mess about on the feet and potentially get 10-8'd and finished. Take him down. And I believe that's what Ilia Topuria would do. And I also believe Ortega would struggle against Ilia as well, because the takedown defense of him is elite. And not only that, it's going to be a similar fight to that Brian Ortega where, apart from the fact that Brian Ortega's got better striking than Bryce Mitchell, he's going to come forward, and Ilia Topuria's head movement, he's just going to move his head off the centre line and rip him to the body and then follow up with that overhand. And because, again, Brian Ortega, you don't really see him throw uppercuts, so I can't think of one uppercut he threw in this fight. That's going to be very open, especially when he's jumping into the clinch. So this featherweight division is going to look a bit strange, and I think we should look at an Ortega Evloev. Whoever wins that fight, you fight for the title. And if Volk's not ready, then you're going to have to rush it into, like, in a weird way, Ortega could get a title shot, but I don't think he should yet. I think he should fight Evloev. Whoever wins that gets it after Volk's had a rematch. And I know he said he shouldn't, but that's if he's not ready, because I think he needs a lot of time off and it can hold up the division. But if he's able to come back in a sensible amount of time, then maybe we could see a rematch, and then after that, the winner of this, Ortega and Evloev, could fight for the belt. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.